I'd like to introduce Kim from England, who has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Kim.
Hi there, hello, thank you.
Could you tell me when you first noticed your MS symptoms?
I first noticed the symptoms when I was quite young. I was 17 and I had numbness in my legs and slight paralysis in one leg at one point. And then in my early 20s I developed Bell's palsy, which was one side of my face went completely numb and paralysed for about 6 weeks, which looking back the doctors now say that was probably the MS that did it. And then over my 20s there were just moments of numbness and paralysis, but it was never put down to anything other than when I developed and was diagnosed, it was looked back and it was said that's what it was the MS.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I didn't know it was the MS that did that. And then I was diagnosed when I was 30.
Right. And what were your symptoms at that time when you were diagnosed?
I didn't have any symptoms apart from, excuse me, like I said before, maybe once in a year or something I would be slightly numb in my hands or something. And then I came back, I was working abroad in the hot country, and I came back to London and I had walked down the road and I walked into a lamp post literally, and then I went to the doctor because I'd had a slight seizure. I didn't know at the time that's what it was. I had strange smells and my vision went. And he told me I had migraine, and he told me it'd be fine. I was to go back in 2 days if I didn't feel very good. And then 2 days or so later, I was at my sister's and I had a grand mal seizure, and that was the beginning of what led to another year before I was actually diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent weeks and weeks in hospital because they thought I had a blood clot in the brain, and they did lots of tests. And then eventually, after about 8 months of in and out of hospital, I went home, and I went back again 6 to 8 months again later, again having seizures, and this time I had what was actually, I was told, were seizures and mild strokes as well, which at the time was really scary. I didn't know what it was. Mm. And that went on again for weeks. I was in hospital for 6 weeks, and they just carried on testing and lumbar punctures and just loads and loads of tests that went on for a long, long time.
Right. So what other symptoms were you having? I mean, did you suffer with fatigue or bladder problems, cognitive problems or anything like that?
No, it didn't then. No, it was basically, it was the seizures that, when I was, before they diagnosed me, they thought that I had motor neurons disease. Mm-hmm. And initially a blood clot in the brain, then it went to motor neurons disease. They didn't tell me that until after I was diagnosed with MS, but I knew that they suspected something quite serious because of all the symptoms I was having. Mm. And they didn't tell me until they'd found out for sure that they thought it was MS. And when they told me it was MS, I was really happy. I started laughing, and my neurologist, and he was a wonderful man, he's now retired, said I was the first person who'd told I had MS that I started laughing. And I said, well, it was either that or something that I didn't have much time left to live. So for me, MS was not an ending, it was a beginning, so I still had time. I could still live my life. But I didn't have any at that point, numbness or feelings. There was remitting and relapsing, but it had more to do with the seizures. Right. And as I've become older, then the numbness became more stronger. I started to notice it, but in my early 30s it wasn't so noticeable.
Mm-hmm. So before you found LDN, what were your symptoms at that time?
Well, by the time I found LDN, I had progressed quite far because I had remitting relapse in MS, but I was quite well because had been in remission after my son was born. My then neurologist told me that sometimes pregnancy with women in MS, it can either make it worse or better. For me, it seemed to make me better, and I was really good. I hadn't had any major relapses. And when I saw a GP, she decided that I should go to the National Neurological Hospital in London, and because she thought I was too well and she didn't think I had MS. So that led on to me arriving there. I'd been at the gym, walked in to see the professor, and 2 years later I had to leave on my husband's arm because I couldn't walk anymore properly, because they did so many tests, changed my medication. They didn't believe there was such a thing as MS with seizures, and basically I spent 2 years of being tested and prodded that made me really sick. And when I got home, the MS got worse, I became more ill. I saw I was going downhill quite rapidly, and I thought, this is not good. And I was in the computer one night, literally at the point I was thinking, I can't let my family, my son and my husband watch me go this way. And I was looking rather morbidly for another way out, as in Switzerland, etc. I hate to be morbid, but that was my frame of mind. And then I came across LDN. It was absolute chance and perhaps a wonderful fate that I found LDN, purely as looking for something morbid, and I found another beginning. So that was how I came across LDN, and at that point the MS was really bad. I was really quite ill with the MS.
Can you describe what you were like?
I couldn't walk very far without stopping, holding on to my husband's arms. I didn't have any balance. I had to sit down to put on a pair of shoes. I had to sit down at the edge of the bed. I couldn't bend over. I couldn't dress myself without sitting down because I had absolutely no balance. I couldn't have a shower. I couldn't bath very well without my husband helping me. I couldn't get out of the bath. And he had to wash my hair for me. I couldn't even wash my hair. So I was really my MS had really deteriorated. I'd got really bad. And I was having every night, I had really bad cramps. It used to wake me up. The really horrible cramps you get with MS that waken you up, and they don't pass. Your muscles all seize up in your legs. And they were really horrible, and they were getting worse and more often and more frequent, and the pain that goes with them. Everybody who's got MS that's ever had that knows that pain is horrible. So I was at that stage. It wasn't a nice part of MS. It wasn't pleasant at all.
So how did you get hold of LDN? Were you able to get a prescription on the NHS?
No, thankfully Linda, yourself, I'm speaking to, wonderful Linda, she told me about a doctor in London, in Golders Green, who is a wonderful man. He prescribes LDN for people, because most GPs, I did ask my GP, not right then, because I knew that after previous experience, I didn't think they would, and I was right, they didn't, and they still won't give me it on the NHS. But the doctor that I see in Golders Green, he's really nice. He only charges me the minimum amount, and he said he would charge less if he could. He charges me £50 for 6 month prescription, and he's private too, and that is really not very much for a private doctor, and he doesn't charge too much. So I get it through him, and he does me repeat prescriptions now, so I just call up and they send my repeat prescription off to Dickinson's in Glasgow. So it's really quite a good routine I've got with him, and I hope it stays that way. It would be nice to have a GP and NHS that would do it, but there's so much still to be crossed here, I guess, for the National Health Service, and hopefully one day they will prescribe LDN. But at this moment in time, I know I get my prescription from a private doctor who also prescribes for hundreds of other people that use LDN for all different things other than MS. Yes. And he's a really nice man. The first time I met him, he said to me, I'll tell you as it is, Kim, he said, I prescribe it for, I remember then, I think he had 700 people at that point. We're going back 2 years now. It's probably double that, I would imagine, by now. He said, in his experience, he said it works for 75% of his patients. He said 25% don't really have any effect. And he said, and 5% had what they thought was a negative reaction. And he said, in my world of medicine, that's pretty good odds. And I said, yeah, that's really good odds. He said, I'll give it a bash. And
did you notice any negative effects to start with?
No, not really. Just unusual feelings. I did notice they were more intensified slightly. I would get MS, slight tingling in my hands, a slight pain in my spine, and it would pass though. But I remember thinking then that it was as if the feelings in my spine and in my legs, it was as though the LDN was in some way affecting, but in a good way, the plaques in my brain, the MS, because they were being stimulated in some way, in a positive way, obviously, because the way I am now, there is no comparison to what I was back then. And I thought there's something that LDN is doing that's making me have minor symptoms, and then they would pass. And then after a few weeks, I didn't get them anymore, but it wasn't anything bad or serious or painful. And sometimes a little bit of confusion. When I first started on the LDN, I was on 4.5, and that was too high. And I lowered it because I felt a bit strange and a bit confused. So I tried lowering it, and I went down to 3. and that works fine. And I'm now at 3.5. I find with LDN, you have to be a little bit brave, and sometimes lower or up the dosage. For me, in the beginning, I tried higher and then a little bit lower, and if I felt really not very well, I would put it up a little bit. And I found 3.5 for me is a really good dose. 4.5 was too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a personal thing with LDN. You have to find the right dosage.
Yes. So what improvements have you noticed?
Oh gosh, they're so vast. Where do I begin? My balance. Before I couldn't balance. I can walk. I can walk really huge amount. I can walk miles now, literally. I can wash my hair. I can dress myself. Everything. I'm the way I was before the symptoms of MS. I would say the way I was, aside from age now, regarding age, I'm pretty much the average person now that have MS. Most people don't even know that I have it, and I don't feel I have it anymore. I don't get any. I still get fatigue, but that's more because I push myself too much sometimes, because I forget that I should sometimes hold back a little bit, and I know I work too hard, I walk too fast, and do too many things, because LDN gives you that ability. And sometimes I think to myself, gosh, you're pushing yourself, Kim. But then, why not? If I have the ability to do that, it's just the way my body's able to do it now. But yeah, everything changed for me. Everything dramatically changed. I could walk, I could talk better. My speech is still not great, but before LDN, I couldn't put sentences together without forgetting words, or my speech was really slurred. In the beginning, I noticed that as well. It changed. My speech improved in the first few months. And now it's not great still. I still have MS, obviously, but it's so much better. I could never have done this before LDN and spoken on the phone like this without becoming tired.
So what did your husband make of the change in you?
I think it's wonderful. He thinks it's absolutely amazing. He got me back. Before he was my carer in a way. He had to wash my hair. He had to help me out of the bath. He would look after me and take care of me. But I thought at one point, I felt really sad for him. That was why I was looking at the morbid night on the computer. I was thinking, I can't let them see me go this way. And now he has me back, and my son has his mum back. And yep, he thinks it's amazing. He always says, "Come, have you taken your medicine? Have you got your LDN when we go abroad? Are we going anywhere? You've got your medicine, you've got everything." He always looks after me, make sure I've got it. Yeah, so he's wonderful, yeah.
So what would you say to other people who are contemplating trying LDN?
I would say try it. Please don't be frightened. There are no side effects that are dangerous or significant enough to bother you. Give it a bash. It can't do you any harm. It's such a small amount to take. It's just a little liquid or even tablet. I'm presuming you can get tablet, but I'd go for the liquid. Try it. It can do no harm. It changed my life around completely. I used to, in the first few weeks and months, I used to talk to strangers at bus stops about LDN. I used to tell complete strangers about how I had MS, and I know they looked at me as I was mad, because they would think, how can you have MS and be so well? And therefore, I say to anybody, give it a bash. There's nothing to lose. There's absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. If it works, it will change your life. And I say that with really to try it. Don't be frightened. Have no fear. Just try it. It won't do you any harm. And I will always say that to people, to try it. My sister, sadly, I have a sister that has MS. I will just mention this quickly. And she takes beta interferon every day by injection and has done for 5 years. She sees me. She won't try it because she's frightened, because some of the medical profession still will not agree to LDN, and they don't, because it doesn't go with their diagnosis of LDN, I guess, or rather MS rather. But Suzanne's too frightened to try LDN, although she sees me really well. So I have half my family a bit strange regarding LDN. They're a bit frightened almost. And so I think sometimes fear can be a big barrier, and you have to just take a step out into the unknown into LDN and be a bit brave and just try it. And I'd say, if it comes to, don't tell your GP, don't tell your doctor until you have the confidence to. I told my GP eventually after the second LDN conference, and had confidence to tell her, and I took her some literature, and I said, please, if you see any patients that you think might benefit from it, give them it, or tell them where to get it rather, if you can't diagnose it. and diagnose it, so prescribe it. And she said that she would keep it in mind. She can't prescribe it, but at least she's going to keep it in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think LDN, you have to just be a little bit brave and take that step and just try it, because it can't do you any harm. And I would say try it, go for it. And I'm starting to talk too much now.
That's fine. So thank you very much for all your help and support. That's really inspirational for other people.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Linda, also, because you're the person that led me to it and to the GP that I use, and you have helped so many people, Linda, and you deserve